Hello everyone, Caboose here, aka Caboose30 in MechWarrior Online, Living Legends, and MW5. If you see me online and want to send me a random friend request, just be sure to send a short message telling me who you are. Moving on, as laid out in a previous video, I have a small unit called the Horsemen. We're just under company strength at the moment, and that's a lot of tonnage to ship from planet to planet. However, it's not enough to justify the purchase and maintenance of our own dropship, so we rent space. We looked out on reasonable accommodations on board a fortress class named the Rat's Ass. Why? Well, compared to other dropships, the fortress is a bit squat, or just plain short. Not to say it's small, because it isn't, but someone made the remark to a previous captain that it was the littlest ship that didn't give a rat's ass, and the name stuck. Weighing in at nearly twice the tonnage of your average Union-class dropship, the fortress can haul a combined arms company in all of its logistical needs with ease. And by that I mean a company of mechs, vehicles, and infantry, along with all the armor, ammo, spare parts, food, etc. that they need for extended field operations. It seems like mechs and the tanks get a lot of the glory, so today I wanted to cover the real workhorses of the galaxy, dropships. They haul your equipment, your passengers, vehicles, and just about any cargo you want to move from planet to planet. There are a ton of classes, sizes, roles, and even shapes of dropships, so I thought I would start out with some basic info about why we even have them to begin with. Today, it is my goal to present to you the truly awesome ship that is the Fortress. I will do so in as professional a manner as possible, without the need for lowbrow humor, excessive cursing, or abusing other people's work. Before we get going, I need to apologize about the background noise you're hearing. Like most mech-delivering ships, this one's design is centered around two things: its enormous fusion reactor and its mech bay, which it just so happens is right outside my door where one of our mechs is being refit. It's a new loadout on a catapult with some clan tech for... Jesus fuck! Hold on.
Stupid piece of Capellan crap.
What the hell is going on out there?
I'm trying to do some repairs. I can't get the power access cover off this Capellan design piece of crap.
Yes, I know you're doing repairs. If it won't come off, did you take all the bolts out?
Did I take all the bolts out? Yes, I took all the bolts out. That's stupid. Both access panels have the bolts removed, smartass.
There's a third access panel.
I have the manual in front of me. There is no third access panel.
Yes, there is.
Well then, where is it?
I swear to God. It's on the bottom, next to the laser aperture.
This thing has a laser? I'm not seeing it!
Well, clean your glasses, it's there.
Found it.
Wow, would you look at that? Well, fuck, that didn't last long. We're all about open communication and unit cohesion here. Back to the topic at hand. Today I want to take a look at the design of the Fortress, the need for assault dropships that led to its design, and why we needed dropships in the first place if we had many cheaper to operate shuttles in existence that could haul a hefty amount of cargo. So, hold on for...
What in the cinnamon toast fuck do you think you're doing?
Oh, nothing. Nothing to see here. Space travel as we all know it is thanks to General Motors' first easy-to-manufacture fusion engine, mass-produced in 2025. Following year, the first fusion drive was created for spaceflight. The first fusion-powered spaceship was finalized the year after that, and made it from Earth to Mars in just 2 weeks. You could practically feel the excitement as finally, interplanetary travel is becoming not just theoretical, but actually feasible. But what about interstellar ships? There are some ideas about faster-than-light drives in the works. Now, as is often the case with theories, faster-than-light, or FTL travel, was worked out via mathematical models based on current understanding of physics, albeit largely unproven, long before the drive itself was built. All thanks to the work of Thomas Kearney and Takayoshi Fushida in 2018. Together, they laid the groundwork for what would later be known as the Kearney-Fushida or KF drive, allowing FTL travel between planetary systems in a matter of days instead of years or even decades. It's important to point out at this period of Earth's soon-to-be renamed Terra history, political reformation was rapid. Intercontinental alliances were made, shifted, broke apart, and round it went, all the while trying to compete with private industry. This was long before the more or less unification of Terra and the massive colonization push to what would eventually become known as the Inner Sphere and the Periphery. Rapidly, things progressed from test flights to probes to colonization of habitable worlds around Tau Ceti. There began a massive push to reach out beyond our current solar system and start taming new worlds, expanding humanity's reach into the galaxy. With this came certain logistical challenges. Dropping off a couple dozen people at a time worked for getting started, but as time went on, colonists and shipbuilders alike realized there was an emerging need for being able to deposit massive amounts of personnel and cargo on a planet while also offering some form of shelter while they established a colony. Add into that the fact that colonies began wondering why they had to supply Terra with goods and subject themselves to her rule. Attitudes quickly progressed from disgruntlement to protests to out-and-out rebellion among colonies. That's when the government of Terra realized it now needed a space navy. FTL ships, later known as jump ships, were too large and fragile to commit to any kind of battle, and shuttles, while much more maneuverable, were difficult to modify with the technology of the time to hold any kind of potent weapons and armor on such a small frame. And thus, with some rework and scaling of early shuttle designs, the dropship was one of many new military instruments born in the Age of War. Now, I know I just glossed over some 300 years of Terran/Inner Sphere history, but seriously, so much happened in such a short time span I could spend an hour just talking about 50 years worth of politics. Instead, we're going to finally dive into something much cooler. At their core, dropships are interplanetary cargo delivery vehicles. From general supplies to military vehicles, they can move massive amounts of cargo from planet to planet at a rapid pace. With the inception of the dropship came the docking collar to be installed on jump ships, allowing them to piggyback inside the FTL field and become interstellar vessels. Practically overnight, you could drop a literal army on a planet and declare it yours, unless they had an army of their own. And thus, with tensions high and everyone tired of someone else telling them what to do, the Age of War started. Yeah, okay, there's more to it than that, but that's not our focus. Early dropships were little more than giant shuttles, albeit with armor and weapons. Their job at first was to wage war in space. Then, as they became more advanced and someone came up with the idea of making jump ships even bigger to bolt on layers of hardened armor and huge guns, their roles started to split. Suddenly, they needed to be ship-to-ship cargo carriers, troop landers, spaceship recovery vehicles, more advanced colony ships, and even down to civilian transports. On and on, their roles split with the progression of technology, right up to when the BattleTech was conceived and someone cast a sharp eye at the nearest dropship and said, "Hey, know what we could do with that thing?" Modern dropships have a straightforward internal layout and vary in size and role to the point where most individual classes are tailor-made for whatever it is you want to accomplish. First, the two main types of dropships, aerodyne and spheroid. Aerodynes are, as the name suggests, aerodynamic and fly better in atmosphere than out of it. They generally have long, sleek hulls and are most often civilian transports, with a couple notable exceptions like the Leopard and Leopard CV class. Spheroids are, guess what, round. The roles were broad, covering about anything you could need. Cargo, recovery, fighter transports, mech transports, etc. Closest to the rear or bottom of the ship is the massive drive section, containing an enormous fusion power plant and equally scaled fuel tanks. This enables most dropships to enter and leave a planet's gravity well and or atmosphere relatively easily, with a few exceptions that are confined to operate in space. It also allows all but the largest ships to accelerate at or over 1 g of thrust, enabling them to simulate gravity. Only dropships purpose-built for space combat are capable of regular high G maneuvers and thrust levels. Most ships are capable of exceeding a single G of thrust, but generally at risk to their overall structural integrity. Above that on spheroids are the cargo and vehicle bays. This is where anything that isn't personnel is kept: infantry gear, mechs, tanks, food, supplies, various goods, etc. The ramps leading outside the ship retract into this general area, adding an extra layer to seal it from the vacuum of space. Despite how it looks on the outside, this means that disembarking actually requires descending down a level on a ramp before getting to the external ramp and descending further. Beyond that are the crew/passenger quarters, then the bridge/command area. All these are pretty straightforward. Some ships put the command section deep in the middle of the ship as a means of shielding it from external damage, whereas civilian ships will have things like external windows and observation lounges. There's sort of an unspoken rule in which civilian ships almost never come under direct attack. Some pirate forces have been known to take advantage of this, either by raiding defenseless ships or by using the guise of a civilian vessel to land their own forces. Now, Aerodyne ships will follow the same general layout but horizontally instead of vertically. This makes them more ideal for rapid deployment of military forces, as the cargo bays are already on ground level. All they have to do is open the massive bay doors and their forces are on the ground. The drawback is that aerodynamic designs don't scale all that well. If you want a large invasion force, you need a lot of little ships or a couple big ones. There have been instances in which a fleet of smaller ships were used, both because it made it difficult to take out large parts of the attacking party before they landed, and because they were able to deploy their forces and establish a forward operating base within minutes of landing. Once on the ground, however, almost any dropship depends on the forces disembarking for protection. Ships that had landed, even when just touching down briefly to land forces, still needed some time to take off again and leave the planet's surface. During this time, they were quite literally a large target. While they were equipped with weapons, most designers and house lords were more concerned with how many troops could be deployed and how quickly, oftentimes leaving the armor and armament decided largely by how much tonnage was left over, or even an afterthought altogether. That is, until one enterprising individual realized that it would be fantastic if a ship could provide its own offensive screen to punch through waves of fighters and then hold its own once landed on the ground. What a true ground-based army needed to deliver it as well as coordinate the offense was a fortress that could fly. So, in rare fashion, the name was conceived before the ship. At least, that's the way I imagine it going at the design table. Weighing in at a solid 6,000 tons, the fortress is 4 times as heavy as the Leopard and dwarfs the Union's 3,500 tons. Sporting 80 tons of armor, 131 heat sinks, and hundreds of tons of medium to long-range weapons, the fortress is just that. Not only can it punch through waves of defending aerospace fighters, it was designed to punch through waves of defending dropships. Once grounded, it uses its superior sensor suite and communications package to serve as a command center for the deploying forces, with enough firepower to keep a company of mechs and fighters at bay while they deploy. The fortress, as I've alluded to, is massive. Besides weighing 6,000 tons, with enough weapons to wage war on its own and enough armor to stop literal nukes, the ship itself is huge. At 91 meters high, it's a full 10 meters taller than the Union, and 112 meters wide, its squat appearance is wider than the Union and the gargantuan 9,300-ton Overlord. While this makes it a wide target in space, its short stature makes it difficult to target by airborne forces while landed. Another massive part of the ship is its drive section. Capable of a bone-warping 2.5 Gs of thrust in extreme situations, the fortress can shove its way through a defending force before all but the lightest elements are able to get into position to intercept. Once planetside, the crew mans a list of weapons as long as my leg. 6 PPCs, 6 autocannon 5s, 4 LRM-20s, 4 LRM-10s, 8 large lasers, and for anyone that manages to survive all that, 2 autocannon 20s, 4 SRM-6s, and 16 medium lasers round out its arsenal. But the designers weren't satisfied with that level of protection, so they decided that a goddamn long Tom 3 cannon should go on the nose of it to hammer at closing targets up to a maximum range of between 130 to 140 kilometers away. While the ship pumps out enough firepower to make the surrounding area look like a fireworks display at a disco on a bad acid trip, it can deploy its cargo. The fortress is capable of holding an entire company of battle mechs, as well as a company of vehicles and a company of supporting infantry, as well as storing 175 tons of supporting cargo. The one thing it doesn't carry are aerospace assets, because it doesn't need them. Construction on this beast of a dropship began at the height of the Star League in 2613. Like most anything else built during this time period, it was a fearsome, well-maintained vessel. Then the Star League collapsed, the various leaders of the Inner Sphere decided to start pounding each other into snail snot, and that situation quickly changed. The fortress already required more regular maintenance checks than the average ship, and missing those started to compound issues. Most notable among these was the massive fusion plant needed to reach its attack speed, had a tendency to just kind of break. If another fortress couldn't be cannibalized for its rare Anacon B500 drive system, then, as the saying goes, any port in a storm would do, leading a variety of variants cobbled together out of necessity. Most often, smaller drive units were available and readily accepted. Captains and military leaders would then run these hot more often than not, consuming up to twice as much fuel as it would otherwise and risk burning the system out early. With their numbers dwindling and replacement parts all but gone, the sudden discovery of a Star League memory core by the Grey Death Legion helped reverse the decay of the remaining fortress ships and, after a little more than a decade, lead to the upgraded design, which, while not wholly necessary, made the design that much more frightening. Someone, after too many beers and wanting to win an argument with "I told you it would fit," decided less was more after all, and started by stripping 2 autocannon 5s, 4 medium lasers, and 2 SRM 6s. They also went from 131 heatsinks to 112, double heatsinks. This more than doubled its heat capacity and, as a result, its ability to wage war. But they didn't stop there, oh no. They upgraded all the large lasers and PPCs to extended range models, added 2 Gauss rifles, upgraded 10 of the medium lasers to medium pulse lasers, and added Artemis IV fire control system to every missile launcher it had. Making this already fearsome ship even scarier didn't stop with the weapons though. They upgraded both the aging drive system to a much more efficient version and boosted the overall integrity of the fortress's frame, enabling it to reach that 2.5 Gs of thrust faster and hold it for longer. These new upgrades were deployed to any that could afford them, and, when compared to the price of a new ship, a lot of people found a way to, in 3058. Oftentimes, very little could dislodge a fortress once it planted itself and gotten firmly established. The best the opposing force could hope for was to deny it resupply. For good measure, they used the rest of the leftover weight savings for cargo, boosting it to just shy of 370 tons, enabling extended field operations and sinking the hopes of any opposition that was trying to starve them out. Mechs trying to outgun a fortress didn't just get destroyed, they outright evaporated. So, in summary, I believe the Fortress-class dropship is the most badass combat ship to be utilized in the Inner Sphere, one that necessitated a new term, pocket warship. Tough, fast, and hard-hitting, they were a valuable asset to any military, a boon to any unit lucky enough to be hitching a ride in one, and while not the most comfortable ride in existence, still has plenty of room for all the crew, infantry, and anything else that might be coming along for the ride. All of it could be yours for the low, low price of 800 million C-bills. I want to thank you all for stopping by to listen to me carry on, my skilled pilots and technicians that enable us to go on fighting, as well as techs in the Black Pants Legion for lending a hand and encouragement. It means a lot, guys. So, until the next upload, maybe I'll see you on the battlefield. Take care, and farewell.